everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here today to start a new weekend vlog. So it is Labor Day weekend in the United States, and I thought I would sort of do like an end of summer type reading vlog. I'm reading 5 books at the moment, so I thought I would just start myself off with introducing you to the books that are on the go, as it were. So I'm reading Blackout by Connie Willis. This is my science fiction read for the moment. You know, I am trying to focus on science fiction in September. I'm buddy reading this one with Britta, and we're about 200 pages in. And I would say just my overall view of this book right now is I'm very much enjoying it. It takes place in England. A lot of the timelines are in England in World War II. During the Blitz and Dunkirk and places like that. But to me, this is really an alternative history more than it is a sci-fi. That's not to say I'm not enjoying it, but it's a little bit of a misnomer to call it a sci-fi, I think, because we're really not dealing with technology or anything like that. So that's that one. I'm also still working on How to Hide an Empire. I don't have the book jacket on here, by Daniel Immerwahr. This is my nonfiction book right now, and this one is all about how the colonialism that the United States engaged in from, you know, its foundation to the 1900s and even into the current day. And this is fascinating. I am learning so much that I did not know. I mean, let me just show you the tabs. So the yellow tabs are everything that I think is either a history that I didn't know about or really important facts that I want to remember. And the blue are, there's diagrams and graphics that illustrate the points that Immerwahr is trying to make that are excellent. So far I am loving that book, and I have recommended it already to various people, and I just think it's wonderful. I'm reading All Over Creation by Ruth Ozeki. This is a buddy read with Joe Smith, and I talked about this in my book haul video that just came out, and so far I am through 2 parts and really enjoying this one. And then I am also still reading The Bully Pulpit, which I started in June and then took a long hiatus in the middle, and now I'm still on chapter 12. I've read through chapter 12, so I'm about halfway through this one and still working my way through it as a buddy read at this point with Doris and Patrice and Karen at Run Right Reads. I also have an audiobook on the go, and that is The Switch by Beth. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to be focusing on this weekend. I have 2 BookTube prize books that I need to get to, and I don't know if I will start one of those this weekend. I think I will, but I want to make some serious progress in these books first. So I will bring you along with me. So it's been several days since I started this vlog. It's actually Wednesday, and I started the vlog on a Saturday, and this is only my second check-in, so that's going well. And I just figured I'd actually wrap this vlog up with this clip. The reading has been going well. I have been progressing on all the books I talked about in my initial clip, so I've made progress on everything, and I finished 2 books. So I'm going to talk about the 2 books that I did finish over the last few days and just wrap this whole thing up. So the first book I finished was The Switch by Beth O'Leary. I listened to this on audiobook, and it was a buddy read with my 2 romance buddy readers, Doris and Katie. And I really enjoyed this book. It was really just a book to bring gladness to your heart, I guess I would call it. I will say I listened to it on audiobook, and the audiobook narration was not the best. There were several little quirky things about the audiobook that I found irritating, but it didn't detract enough for me to want to stop listening to the book. So take that for what it's worth. So The Switch is about Lena and Eileen. Lena is a 20-something business person in London, and Eileen is her 79-year-old grandmother who lives in the country. And after Lena sort of has some kind of episode at work, she gets put on sabbatical for 2 months. And so she and her grandmother decide to switch places, and Lena will go down to the country and live in her grandma's house and sort of try to rest and relax and get her life back together. And Eileen will go up to London and have an adventure because her husband has, left her not too long ago, and Lena's sister and Eileen's granddaughter has passed away about a year previously. So they're all sort of like dealing with a lot of emotional problems. So Eileen goes off to London, Lena goes down to the countryside, and adventures ensue. There's a large cast of characters. Lena gets involved in the village community watch group with all the sort of elderly folks that her grandmother is friends with. And of course, there is a young man who is a teacher in the village who Lena starts having interactions with. And you can imagine where that's going to go. And then Eileen is up in London doing the online dating thing, and living in the flat with Lena's 2 roommates, and getting involved in their lives and getting involved in the neighbors that live in the apartment buildings' lives. And it's just all delightful. Like, the majority of the characters, while they may be irritating or have some quirks or whatever, they're just very charming. Everything sort of gets resolved in the end in a very satisfactory way. And it is a romance in that there are some romance storylines in the book, but the romance isn't the central storyline at all. There's, talk about community and what it means to be a part of a community, what it means to be a part of a family, what do you owe people that are in your family, and how do you deal with, big issues that happen in a family, the grief of losing a sibling or a daughter or a granddaughter. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the elderly in your community, whether that community be a rural community or an urban community? How do you deal with dating when dating is all done, sort of at a remove through a digital lens? And just lots of questions get brought up in this book, but they're dealt with in a humorous or a poignant way. And so it was a fun read, and it was a fun listen. And like I said, the audiobook, I think, had some quirks that I could have done without. But for one thing, like every time there was a phone conversation between Lena and her grandmother Eileen, like one of the people on the phone would sound like they were actually on the phone, like they put some kind of sound thing over the person talking to make them sound like they were talking through the phone. Like, why? We don't need that. It was just irritating and hard to hear. So things like that were irritating, but the story itself was very fun. And then I've also stayed up late last night and finished reading Blackout by Connie Willis. This is my first science fiction read for Science Fiction September, my self-imposed program to try to read some of the science fiction titles on my TBR. Sorry, there's some glare on that because this is an ex-library copy. So I buddy read this with Britta, and I want to just be upfront about what this book is about. So this book is about, it's a time travel book wherein time travelers from 2060 who are called historians go back to World War II in England. And they're studying or observing different aspects of World War II, whether it be the Blitz, the evacuation of children from London to the countryside at the beginning of the war, the rescue at Dunkirk. Those are the three main ones, but there are a few others too that get talked about in this book. So the problem with this book is that it is not a complete book. This is part of a duology, and I did not know that, and Britta did not know that going in. And we only realized it when Britta was like looking up something online, and when we were about halfway through it, and we realized that, oh crap, this book's just going to end, and you need to read the second book to find out what happens to everybody, because there's a pretty wide range of characters in here. So this is an 820, this is a almost 500 page book. This is 491 pages that doesn't get resolved at the end. It just stops. And it's really frustrating. Also, it's almost 500 pages and nothing happens for lots of it. There's a lot of repetitive stuff. We spend a lot of time in bomb shelters and tube stations during the Blitz. We spend a lot of time, like, one of the characters is posing as a shop girl during the Blitz. So we spend a lot of time in, like, the shops in London. We spend a lot of time on this in this manor house out in the countryside with one historian who is tasked with observing these children who have been evacuated. So we are dealing with, like, rowdy and rambunctious and naughty children for pages and pages and pages. And it just is too long. It needs to be shorter. I go into science fiction, like true science fiction, expecting a very fast plot-driven read or a very character-heavy read, if I'm thinking of the Becky Chambers books. But this has plot happening, but the plot is just drawn out. It reads more like leisurely historical fiction than it does science fiction, if I'm honest. So it's good, but just go into it knowing this really isn't like a true, what I would call a true science fiction book. I would call this more of like alternative history, and it just reads more like historical fiction to me than science fiction. So yeah. I don't know if I'm going to actually read the second book because I'm that frustrated with it. I mean, the writing is good. Connie Willis is a good author, and I've read some books by her in the past that I've really enjoyed. But I'm really frustrated with the slow pace of this, and the fact that I've read 500 pages and I'm not at the end yet bugs me. And so that wasn't really what I wanted when I started reading science fiction this month. I wanted some fast-paced sort of books that I didn't have to feel frustrated with. So it was too bad. But the parts, like the little episodes that are written about World War II, are fascinating. And I definitely did learn more about this period of history, but that wasn't what I was hoping for, I guess. So I don't know if I'll continue on with All Clear or if I'll just cut my losses at this point. I haven't decided. So that's what I finished in the last few days. And like I said, I have made good progress on the other books that I am reading. The Alif Shafak, 10 Minutes, 38 Seconds in This Strange World, All Over Creation by Ruth Ozeki, and How to Hide a Nation by Daniel Immerwahr. I'm still continuing on with those and making good progress. And yeah, so success, right? And it is really feels like the end of the summer here. The mornings are cool. The leaves are starting to change, as you will have seen in this vlog. And yeah, here we go. folks, it's fall. I hope you've all found some good books to read, and I will talk to you later.